Welcome everyone to our Saturday Illuminators event that happens the third Saturday of the month. Welcome to the Green Tent Circle. Find a comfortable spot. Lift your shoulders up, let them drop, and relax. I will do the call for centering. Some call it the call for prayer, the Tibetan bowl, and then we can have some silence. And then we're going to begin our exciting program with an incredible leader from Brazil, Lourivania, and our wonderful Angela Weber, who is initiator for getting the Green Tent Circle to happen, who are in the beautiful jungle in Brazil as we speak. So here we go. So welcome everyone. And I'm going to turn this over to Angela in just a second, because Angela is going to be the translator for Lourivania. And also, she's the reason why we have this most outstanding Brazilian leader, who's a journalist, and she has her master's and doctorate in culture and society. She's a parliamentary advisor on the Commission for the Defense of Women's Rights and Human Rights and Public Safety. She is a feminist and solidarity, I would love to find out more about that, solidarity economy activist, a women's rights counselor for the state of Bahia, and one of the coordinators of the Brazilian Grassroots Women's Resilience Practitioners Platform, articulated by the Rede Pintadas. I know you're going to be at the UN CSW by the Wairau Commission, and we want to also hear what date you're going to be doing your workshop. And the Wairau Commission always brings the most outstanding grassroots leaders from around the world. And this is the one year I'm not attending, so I won't get to be at your workshop, but I know they always, when I go to those workshops, you find the most amazing grassroots organizing. So anyway, it is just such a great honor and privilege to have you. And I just want to thank my wonderful friend Angela for knowing you. And I'm going to let her finish with any other kind of introduction you want to give, because I don't want to shortchange your leadership or all that you've done. And really, for me, the story that you're about to tell is my favorite kind of story. It's kind of the story where this is from a semi-arid place where there was not water or food security or really women's rights, violence against women, you name it, it was there. And it's been totally transformed. So I call you my miracle worker, because the women there together collectively, they created a miracle. So Angela, take it away.
Lourivania understood everything that you said.
Algumas coisas.
Okay, she kind of, I met Lourivania a year ago through our common Italian teacher. And as he knows me from a long time and knows my work, and Lourivania saw him to prepare herself to go to Italy to a forum in Torino, in Turin. And we get together, and I invited her to come to Verona and to be part of the gathering that we are doing in honor of the Casa de Ramia anniversary. We started a friendship besides having our work alignments being aligned and thought of. And she is a very incredible woman, a young woman, the kind of leader that we need nowadays. So I'll try my best to translate what she has to say. Lourivania, with you.
Hi, everyone. I am Lourivania. I'm very, very happy today for this moment. E now I speak in português. Então, primeiro eu quero agradecer este momento.
First, I want to thank this opportunity
para estar com vocês, compartilhando, né, da minha história, da história da minha comunidade, e como isso pode também estar fortalecendo essa rede que a gente está em contato.
To be able to share with you my story and the story of my community, to be able to share and make it broader.
Como o N já falou no início, eu sou do Nordeste do Brasil.
I'm from northeast of Brazil.
Uma região do semiárido brasileiro, que é uma região muito seca.
A semi-arid region, very dry.
E por conta de ser uma região no semiárido da Bahia, que é diferente de outras regiões do Brasil, nós temos problemas específicos.
As it is a micro-region in Bahia, because the semi-arid is within the whole northeast of Brazil, but in this specific region, they have specific problems.
Então, o principal problema da nossa região está associado à questão às questões climáticas, notadamente a falta de chuva, né, ou a regularidade dessas chuvas.
Our biggest problems are lack of rain or irregularity on the raining, the fall of the rain.
No entanto, Pintadas, que é o meu município, a diferença de Pintadas, a particularidade de Pintadas está justamente por ser um município que, apesar de estar nessa região, ele conseguiu criar condições alternativas para se adaptar ou conviver com essa situação.
What makes Pintada outstanding is because as it is within this very dry region, it developed ways and means to develop itself within all these setbacks.
Então, Pintadas foi um dos primeiros municípios do Nordeste brasileiro, que é uma região muito grande aqui no Brasil, que desenvolveu tecnologias sociais para conviver com essas questões do clima, com a falta de água, criando reservatórios, criando plantações adaptadas, né? Agricultura mais adaptada.
Pintadas municipality was able to develop social and also technologies to face all these problems, especially concerning water.
Mas essas criações, essas tecnologias, elas foram sendo desenvolvidas pelo movimento social.
The outstanding point is that these technologies have been developed by the social movement.
E, nesse sentido, eu quero destacar que a organização popular ela foi fundamental para essa mudança de realidade e a Igreja Católica que ajudou na organização do povo.
So, to achieve that, it was of the utmost importance, the participation of grassroots people. And the Catholic Church was really a very standing point in order to organize this grassroots initiative.
Então, falando um pouco assim da minha participação,
Talking about my participation
estou falando aí dos anos 80,
in the 80s.
Eu, enquanto criança, desde o início, eu aprendi que a minha rotina era acordar, botar a lata de água na cabeça e vir abastecer a casa.
Her childhood routine was to wake up in the morning and grab a big can to go pick up water for the family, for the house.
E por estar sempre nesse movimento, desde a pastoral da criança, depois na pastoral da juventude, eu sempre estive envolvida nesses movimentos, eu fui estimulada, junto com outros jovens, a pensar que isso não era uma condição natural.
As she developed in the programs from the Catholic Church, the basic ecclesiastic movement, she realized that this is not the natural condition of living or being.
Então, nós fomos criando uma consciência social, né, da importância também de ter direitos e de buscar esses direitos dentro do movimento.
And within the Catholic movement, they learned that they had rights, and they learned that they had a right for a better life.
Então, não era uma condição natural e também não era possível que a gente vivesse e morresse naquela condição.
She learned that it was not a natural condition to be living and even dying, doing the same thing over and over in the same condition.
Então, o movimento social, ele foi se organizando e foi percebendo que para mudar essa realidade também precisava ocupar o poder institucional, ocupar a política.
And the movement, the basic movement from the church, from this grassroots people, realized that to really change, they had to step forward and go into the political aspects of the society.
Sobretudo as mulheres, porque como estávamos numa região que muitos homens migravam para os grandes centros urbanos, as mulheres ficavam no dia a dia cuidando da rotina e da vida.
This is a region where men migrate to the urban centers where they can get a job, and usually the women are left there to raise the children. So this is why the women started to having a very important role in this political aspect of the project.
Porque todas essas questões que recaíam de ter que abastecer a casa, de não ter um tempo livre para participar das atividades políticas, para fazer atividades outras que as mulheres poderiam fazer, elas eram impedidas porque elas tinham essas tarefas de prover a casa, de prover de água, que as impediam de ter uma vida mais livre.
As they should be attentive to pick up water and be working with really the bare necessities of their families, they were not able to get into the political system.
Então, as mulheres começaram a se organizar, construir um movimento chamado Movimento de Mulheres, e começaram a reivindicar, começaram a se organizar, a se encontrar, como a gente está fazendo aqui, né? E começaram a pensar como é que poderia mudar essa situação.
So they get together and in a movement of women, just women, to rethink how they could cope with their necessities and how to change that.
Então, uma decisão que as mulheres tomaram era que tinha que ter uma representação do movimento popular na política. E aí foi quando se organizou um movimento que elegeu uma prefeita de origem popular que conhecia essa situação.
So the women got together and realized that to change their economic and surviving situation, they have to find someone to be in a political level talking for them. And they got together and they voted for the first mayor, woman mayor in the town.
Então, o movimento, principalmente o movimento de mulheres, foi responsável por eleger uma primeira mulher, que foi a prefeita Neuza Cadore, né, à época, que, através da escuta dos movimentos sociais, construiu uma pauta, sobretudo olhando a questão da mulher e a questão da água.
So these women gathered really were responsible for the first woman mayor in Pintadas. And through that, they were able to build a strategy where they put forward the needs of the women.
Como isso era feito? Com escutas populares nas comunidades, né? No centro da cidade, construindo uma plataforma que pudesse trazer.
So they started doing that, hearing what women needed to build a platform where they could build the policies needed.
Então, a água passou a ser prioridade naquele momento, porque as mulheres destacaram que elas precisavam, antes de qualquer coisa, ter esse importante instrumento, essa política que era tão importante para a vida dessas mulheres, né, e para suas famílias.
So among them all, the issue that was first considered of most importance was the water, because it was preventing them to be able to do many other things. The work to go and grasp water from sometimes 2-3 kilometers away from home in small cans, because you can't carry much water. Water is heavy. And it was their first focus, let's put it this way, to develop policies that could help these women to bring about another kind of life.
Mas como a gente sabe que para as mulheres ocuparem espaços de poder, ainda hoje, são espaços de estranhamento, naquela época também.
As today, at that time, for women to go into spaces of power was very hard, because it was not their place.
Então, à época, Neuza, enquanto prefeita, uma das primeiras do estado da Bahia, ela também sofreu perseguições.
So the first mayor of Pintadas, Neuza Cadore, she was persecuted.
E o que foi que a comunidade, os movimentos fizeram? Eles foram buscar apoios nacionais e internacionais para que Pintadas pudesse dar continuidade a esse processo de desenvolvimento.
So as she was being persecuted because of her actions towards the women's necessities, the community itself went abroad and went out to try to find new ways to secure her position and develop the policies needed.
Então, Neuza conseguiu reunir, junto com os movimentos, apoio de diversos países: Itália, França, Bélgica, Alemanha, Áustria.
Neuza herself reached out for other countries like Italia, Belgium, Austria, Germany, and to help her keep her position.
E Dentre esses projetos, vários projetos para construir ações de água, ações no campo da educação, ações no campo da agricultura familiar, diversos.
So she especially sought to develop projects that will help develop the water systems, the family agriculture, and all these basic projects.
E um desses projetos, que é onde eu me encontro agora, para falar novamente da minha participação, foi um projeto chamado Adoção Educativa à Distância, que era um projeto que visava formar, capacitar jovens de Pintadas para contribuir nesse desenvolvimento.
One of the projects that she worked with Neuza, the mayor, was called, como é o nome?
Adoção Educativa à Distância.
Adoption,
Adoção Educativa à Distância.
Sorry. Education at Distance Adoption. And Lourivania was engaged in one of this.
Então, quando Neuza se torna prefeita, que a gente constrói esse movimento, eu já participava da Pastoral da Juventude, já participava de atividades com os jovens locais no campo da arte e da cultura. Nós criamos lá um cinema móvel.
They were already working. I'm concerned because she's getting out of battery. Pode repetir. Desculpe.
Então,
Sorry.
Naquela época que Neuza era prefeita, eu já participava de vários movimentos, inclusive no movimento da cultura. E lá nós criamos um cinema móvel, um dos primeiros da Bahia, um dos primeiros do Brasil.
So by the time that they were developing this project with Neuza, Lourivania was already working there with a project of open movie. And it was the first developed in the whole of Bahia, the state of Bahia.
Então, quando a gente conquista esse projeto para que jovens possam estudar e vir contribuir para o movimento de Pintadas, é que naquela época a gente não tinha mão de obra na cidade, a gente não tinha profissionais.
One of the big problems that they had no professionals, including to develop education or whatever was needed there. So this educational project, where they thought people abroad to help young people from Pintadas to study, was of the utmost importance to keep forward the overall project.
Porque eu estou falando de uma época que a gente vivia no isolamento, a gente não tinha universidades próximas, a gente não tinha estrada para circular, a gente não tinha sinal de celular, de telefone.
She's talking about a time where there were no roads, no universities, the schools were very limited, and there was not even phone access. So they were isolated.
Isso. Então, eu venho para Salvador, faço a minha graduação, estudo, e, ao final, Neuza, que já tinha encerrado o mandato de prefeita, entra na disputa para deputada estadual.
So Lourivania came to Salvador, started her university and then master's and PhD. In the meantime, Neuza Cadori had ended her term, 2 or 3 terms. Quantas vezes ela foi prefeita?
2 vezes.
2 terms, and she decided to run for a state deputy.
Então, Neuza se encontra agora no 5º mandato como deputada estadual, e naquela ocasião eu começo a trabalhar com Neuza já na perspectiva de não contribuir só com Pintadas, mas com toda a região.
So Neuza now is in her 5th term, and as Lourivania was really from Pintadas and have the capacity, she started to work with Neuza are her assistant in this project.
Então, essa experiência tem nos permitido levar para o Parlamento da Bahia todas as questões referentes, não só às mulheres de Pintadas, mas também as questões referentes à região.
So this has enabled them to not only bring forward all the Pintada problems and necessity, but all from all regions, from all municipalities in Bahia State.
Então, nesses 15 anos, nós temos trabalhado muitas questões, mas principalmente as questões que afetam a vida das mulheres.
So in this last 15 years, we have been working with many issues, but mostly with those that affect the women's life.
Então, queria destacar que nessa caminhada nós temos construído diversos projetos que viraram leis, projetos que têm mudado, que têm transformado a vida das mulheres.
And on this period, we have been doing projects and actions that have been transforming the life of women.
Então, quero citar que dentre os projetos de lei que a gente conseguiu construir, quero tocar em alguns que são extremamente importantes, como o projeto do cooperativismo.
She wants to highlight the projects that she thinks are very important. The first one is of cooperativism.
Economia solidária.
Solidary economy.
Combate à violência contra as mulheres.
Violence against women.
Que essa é uma questão aqui para a gente, uma das questões principais, porque nosso índice de violência contra as mulheres é altíssimo.
Our index of women's violence here is very high.
Por outro lado, nós temos poucas representantes femininas nos espaços de poder.
And on the other hand, we have very few representatives, feminine representatives, in the power space.
Então, em razão disso, tenho muito orgulho de, enquanto uma mulher que vem desse movimento, a gente poder estar nesse espaço defendendo pautas como essas.
And she is very proud to say that although she's coming from the base of this movement, now she is part of this empowered group that can change things.
Quero destacar também que nesse processo todo que a gente tem vivido, a gente tem percebido o quanto a liderança das mulheres ela é fundamental para a gente transformar o nosso mundo.
And another important thing to highlight is that it is very important for women to be part of this empowering range in order to transform the world.
Essa liderança ela é visível e ela é muito forte porque a gente tem mulheres de várias esferas, de várias camadas que têm participado da política.
So nowadays we have many women from many levels that are really participating strongly and effectively in the political space here in Bahia.
E é isso que tem feito a diferença, essa escuta, essa participação, essa acolhida dessas mulheres, dessas pautas.
And this has been making a huge difference because these women are able to hear and translate them into projects.
Então, nós trabalhamos hoje com redes de mulheres que estão em diversos espaços, tanto rurais quanto urbanos.
We nowadays work with a network of women that are in rural space as well as in urban spaces.
E são essas mulheres que no dia a dia iluminam essas pautas, que trazem essas reivindicações, que a gente pode transformar isso em política pública.
And those women are those that bring forward the issues that will be transformed by women like Neuza and Lourivania into public policies.
Então, assim como foi a questão da água lá atrás, que ela foi transformada em política pública,
as the water was turned into public policy,
a gente tem trazido para esse ambiente outras questões que também afetam a vida das mulheres.
we were able to bring forward other issues that interfere with women's lives.
Eu gosto muito de destacar sempre a questão da água, porque ela é muito simbólica, porque nós estamos no semiárido e porque aquele projeto que nós começamos lá atrás, ele serviu de referência também para o governo do Brasil.
She likes to put forward this water issue because this represents what can be done and what can be achieved.
E durante todo esse processo, nós temos visto que, com o conjunto de movimentos, a gente tem conseguido conquistar outros espaços, outras políticas, que para nós são fundamentais.
And through this, we learn how to develop processes to include other issues into the political discussion in Brazil, in Bahia, and in Brazil, and sometimes even abroad.
Uma das questões que a gente tem pautado agora muito firme é a questão do meio ambiente, por exemplo.
And one issue that has been of most importance is the environment.
Que não deixa de ser uma questão que a gente já vinha trabalhando desde quando a gente pautou a questão da água.
So it was an issue since we started with the water.
E desde muito jovem eu tenho essa consciência de que não é porque a gente vive no semiárido que as coisas são inacessíveis, são imutáveis.
And since I was young, I realized that it is not because we live in a place where there is water scarcity that we have to leave scarcity.
Mas foram todas essas experiências que me fizeram ter essa consciência.
And all the experiences helped me to grow this kind of consciousness.
Então, assim como a gente está aqui hoje nessa rede, eu participo de outras redes de mulheres e que me fazem perceber que essa nossa troca, esse nosso compartilhamento de ideias, ele é muito importante, é fundamental para a gente mudar o mundo.
So as I here today with this circle, I'm also connected with many networks of women, and I realize that all these networks working together are the possibility for us women to change the world.
E eu acredito muito que pessoas em várias partes do mundo, elas estão fazendo algo para transformar as nossas vidas.
So, and I'm quite aware that people all over the world are working in different aspects to change our lives.
Porque um dia a minha vida foi modificada por um projeto internacional de uma cooperativa da Itália.
Because once my own life was transformed through one project, international project from Italy.
E esse projeto, ele se conecta com várias outras ações que foram desenvolvidas, né, na minha região.
And this project was connected also with many other actions needed in my region at that time.
E nós temos construído, junto com outras mulheres também, várias ações para a gente poder tirar da invisibilidade a contribuição das mulheres em diversos espaços.
So we are trying to bring forward the real contribution of women in many spaces, in many networks, to highlight the importance of women's.
E nesse momento exatamente estamos fazendo um resgate, uma sistematização de histórias de cerca de 40 mulheres, por exemplo, em Pintadas, que de algum modo contribuíram com o processo de desenvolvimento.
So nowadays we are developing the story of around 40 women that were of utmost importance to develop this network.
E por que estamos fazendo isso? Para que elas também entendam que elas são importantes, que elas exercem um papel.
So we are doing that in order for them themselves understand the importance of their role to develop these networks.
Então, aprendi que em Pintadas, com a nossa força, com a nossa solidariedade, a gente tem mudado, mas que a gente pode fazer isso também onde a gente estiver, em qualquer lugar do mundo.
So I learned in Pintadas that with our strength and our union, we can change many things, but I learned mostly that we can do the same thing anywhere in the world.
Então, meu desejo é que a gente possa fortalecer essas redes, né? Que a gente possa ampliar essas vozes, que a gente possa, como mulheres que estão preocupadas com essa transformação, que a gente possa se fortalecer cada vez mais.
So my desire is that this network of women can be strengthened out and more be a source of strength to all women.
Então, eu creio que são muitas conexões, e o fato de eu estar aqui hoje com a Ângela não é algo assim por acaso. Eu acho que tem um projeto.
So it seems that all these connections are not made randomly, that there is a project behind all that.
Então, me sinto muito feliz mesmo de conhecer o trabalho de vocês, conhecer o trabalho de tantas mulheres que estão em diversos espaços, fazendo tantas coisas que se somam nesse tecido aí, de que eu chamo de mudar o mundo, né?
So I'm very happy to know you all and know all this women's work trying to change the world all together.
Então, se vocês tiverem oportunidade, tiverem, né, condição, vontade, convido-as a conhecer Pintadas, a conhecer o nosso semiárido.
So I invite you all to come to visit Pintadas and the semi-arid.
Para conhecer essa belezura que são essas histórias, que são essas histórias de superação e de transformação que a gente tem feito, nós, as mulheres, nesses espaços.
And to learn all the beauties that all these women that have been working in this space, how they have become.
Então, para encerrar, as mulheres nos espaços de poder, nos movimentos sociais, na educação, elas podem sim promover grandes transformações.
To finish, I would like to say that women, wherever they are in the educational or whatever sphere, political, whatever sphere they are, they can really connect and promote this change, this needed changes in the world.
Muitas vezes falta apenas uma oportunidade, uma mão estendida, né, um chamamento para que isso venha acontecer.
And sometimes we just need an opportunity, someone to give us a hand to go forward and promote the needed change.
Então, basicamente é isso. Você quer que eu destaque mais alguma coisa? Então, agradecer por nos ouvir. Fiz um resumo muito breve e espero que tenha tocado vocês de alguma forma e estou aqui à disposição.
I did a very quick story about all this, and I'm here to whatever you need. And this is me. Sorry, sometimes my translation was not so good, but I tried my best.
It was perfect. But I want to just say brava to the women, that all the women who supported you, to your leadership, to the story that you're telling, to the model that you're giving to the world, and your message, the message of really when we support one another as women and support this women's network, we are changing the world. And I hope they make a documentary of this story because it is so important. And we know that this story is happening many other places, but just to lift this up, that's what we call the illuminators, is to illuminate. That's our role of the Green Tan Circle, is to illuminate these stories that inspire and can give support and hope. But it's more than that. It is happening. It's actually happening. And that's why I call it, there's miracles happening every day. So I just want to give you a standing ovation, but to you and all the women. We'll open it up to some questions, but I just kind of want to reflect back what I heard. And the others can do that too and ask questions. Because when you started your story about you carrying water as a little girl, and, I've been to Africa and I know how African women have had to carry water, many, and how that just takes the majority of the time and effort. And then how you, supported by people outside of your even country, Italy, Germany, other countries, knew to support your leadership. Because by supporting your leadership, you were going to go back and support your community. So it's just, to me, this is the model. It's like, okay, you supported from the grassroots up, and then you supported it. But coming back, you knew that women were not in politics. There were no chairs at the table for women in politics. So you got that Nilda becomes a mayor, right? And when she is in a position of power, she is in a position of the women's grassroots needs of the community, because the women's needs of the community are the needs of all the community. It's water, it's food security, it's stopping violence, it's all of it. It is not for her own political gain. And that begins to shift everything. So policies can happen, programs can happen, projects can happen, and then it began to change what was a real dire situation into a psych. And I loved what you said. And I knew that the Catholic grassroots movement throughout Latin America has always been that, to support the poor and to create these kind of programs, was that we don't need to live like this. And that was that whole, new pedagogy, that came out of Brazil, right? And it was the pedagogy that was saying, we don't need to live like this. And we can change it. And it takes the women to change it. And so the story is a woman's story, but it's a woman's in community story. So that's what I'm celebrating, and I'm so glad we can illuminate.
Thank you, Anne. Anne, eu vou pedir a Ângela para traduzir.
She's going to ask me to translate.
Uma coisa que eu não falei para vocês, mas que eu me orgulho também, é que
I'm very proud of
as minhas pesquisas acadêmicas, eu fui para a graduação.
My academic researches.
Eu ganhei a bolsa, fiz a graduação.
Did my graduation, got my scholarship.
E posteriormente fiz o mestrado, fiz o doutorado, sempre voltado para a minha região.
And did all my studies focusing the region of Pintadas.
Fazendo essas reflexões também na academia, que sempre foi muito elitista e muito distante.
Reflecting these issues in the academy that was always very elitist and distant.
Então, eu quis levar para dentro da academia as nossas lutas, as nossas histórias, as nossas conquistas.
I brought into the academy our stories and our needs and our victories as well.
E para que também essas mulheres da minha comunidade, do meu entorno, elas percebam a importância que tem essa luta e que esse registro também fique para as outras gerações.
So women can, as a whole, figure out the importance of this struggle and that it has to be written for the next generations.
Yeah.
Porque nós tínhamos tudo para ser uma comunidade, né, realmente desacreditada, desesperançosa, mas pelo contrário.
We had everything to not make it because we were poor, we had no conditions.
Mas somos uma comunidade de mulheres, principalmente de mulheres resilientes.
But as we are a community of resilient women,
que conseguiu, com todas essas adversidades, construir grandes ações, grandes projetos.
That through their actions build big projects and big actions.
A exemplo de projetos de geração de renda, as mulheres criaram em Pintadas um restaurante que é administrado por elas.
Generating income, they built a restaurant that is managed by them.
E agroindústrias para reaproveitamento de
agroindustry to use the fruits that are abundant in the semi-arid.
Principalmente valorizando essa matéria-prima local, que antes não se era valorizada.
And giving this natural products a very strong usage for the women's economy. They are using the environment to help develop themselves, using what the environment provides.
Então, estou falando desse movimento que veio desde os anos 80, e o nosso desafio, de fato, agora é animar as novas gerações, as novas jovens, para dar continuidade a esse processo.
Our challenge nowadays is how to bring in the young adults to keep forward these projects.
Yeah, because they didn't live in the conditions. They didn't live in the conditions that you grew up. They've taken them for granted. And it's like, I now have to realize you can't take anything for granted because it will only slip backwards. And the importance of women's leadership is so important. This is what we said in America, the women's movement. The younger generation didn't know what we had to go through for women's rights. But we need to keep educating, keep illuminating, keep telling the stories and sharing those stories because they're so important. There's an African proverb that I love that it says, when you educate a man, you educate an individual. When you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And that's what happened with you. You got your master's, you got your PhD, but it wasn't for just you. It was for your country. It was for your community. It was for the women. It was for creating a women's network. And Angela and I have been to the World Conference on Women, the last one, and we saw that there is a global women's network that people don't even understand, but it is enormous and it's powerful, and we need to constantly raise that up. Those are the stories we need to have because our whole theme at the Parliament is defending freedom and human rights, and that's what you're doing. That's what you've done.
But we had a submission for a global women's forum, right? Maybe we should have that panel and bring people like this.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So that
from different countries.
Yeah, a global women's forum to really, really help women realize there is a huge global women's network.
Yeah.
And what we need to do as the elders, myself and Dolly, is to make sure the younger women are a part of it and become part of the movement.
But
I
also the problem is to get the younger women there.
And we need to connect as well. I think if we connect, those young women will be more aware of this, the importance of this.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of, of the Green Tent Circle, is all about connection and then hearing the stories. But as you said, Angela and Lourivana, is that it wasn't just by random the two of you connected, right? And then you were at the right place because this is a place that you knew there would be other women who were believing in the same thing. Angela and I had been friends for, 30 years, whatever. Oh. Anyway, but
Ela ia dizer quanto tempo nós somos amigos.
okay. But see, these connections are intentional. My connections are always intentional. I'm not going to spend my time in which it isn't going to support the status of women. That's my mission in life. And supporting the status of women is changing the world.
É o trabalho da vida de dar apoio ao status das mulheres, é o que vai mudar o mundo.
A gente agradece, Anne, por mulheres como você existirem, porque são mulheres como vocês que têm mudado realmente o mundo e principalmente estendido a mão para outras mulheres.
I thank you, Anne, for all the good work that you have been doing and all the women here that are doing this kind of work. And this is what we need, to stand our hands one to another and work together.
Thank you. And I think with that, I'm going to close down the recording unless Leah and Dolly want to say something just because of our time, but it's been so rich.
Thank you so much for sharing this story, Lourivania. It's so inspiring. It's such a great model of moving from victimhood to empowerment. And you really demonstrate how it doesn't matter how many odds are against you when we all work together, how powerful we are. So it's just the perfect story, especially to share with young girls. I would love to see this story put into a children's book for young girls so they know the power they hold right away. It's in your story. It's so powerful. So I think that's how we can help out, is just by writing the her story, so it's cemented and anchored and grounded for young women to keep building on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, that's a great idea for a children's story because it started out with her as a young girl, right?
And her daughter paints beautifully. She is 11 years old, and maybe it's how to do a work in Pintadas with the young girls telling their story, and they can translate it into designs of the women with the water in the head, and then how they get together and started changing things and
become mayor and become a representative, or one day will become president of the country.
Yeah, with us.
Yes, involve the young girls in writing the story through their art and through their music and through their poetry.
Very cool. And then they can do the artwork too. And that would be super. So when is your workshop at CSW, the Commission on the Status of Women?
I have to say, she is not going.
Oh, she's not going.
Yeah, Huayru is not being, commission has not been able to provide tickets for all of them.
Oh, okay.
So they are finding a way to make a Zoom meeting.
Tell them.
Have you heard about it?
But tell them that there is a Zoom meeting and you just go to the Green Tent Circle and you will get the best story. The world is changing, some for the worse and a lot for the good, and we like to lift up the good.
Yes, we will.
We are.
But I am a bit, what should I say, sad that some of our young women presidents are resigning for being burned out. I mean, we don't find young men resigning for being burnt out, you know. So that we should do something about that, prevent
Yeah.
that.
You know, I think that's the other story, though, that is coming out of Brazil, coming out of your story, Ivana, is that when they tried to get rid of Nelda, the community backed her up. And not only the local community, but the global community
It's
backed her.
Neusa.
And, you know, Wangari Maathai, who won the Nobel Peace Prize, first time ever an environmentalist, it was the women in the United States said, you need to come here. And they paid for her to come to America to get her PhD, so she would be taken seriously. Not only did they plant all of these trees, indigenous trees, to bring back the prevention of the deforestation that was happening in Africa, but she trained thousands of women to be leaders. And again, in doing these projects, women's leadership is being developed as much as the project is being developed. Global Women's Network, goodbye.
Bye.